Well, surprise, surprise, the two lowest teams to make it into the playoffs are the first two teams eliminated in the playoffs. In today's offseason preview series video, we're looking at the two first teams who were eliminated from playoff contention as the Devils and the Habs start their offseason. We'll go to all the updates for both the Devils and the Habs coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. We're on the road to 500 subscribers, so if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really does help with the channel. And don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below discussing today's video. So in today's video, we've got another off-season preview series video as usual. We'll look at both teams that we're talking about in today's video, look at their stats, how they did this past year, and 3 reasons I think they missed the playoffs. We'll look at their pending UFAs, RFAs, and their draft capital for this upcoming season. And we'll look at 5 ways I think these two teams should go about the offseason to improve and get better for next year. So we're going to start off with the first team who was eliminated from playoff action, and that is the New Jersey Devils. So they finished the year with a record of 42-33-7, finished 3rd in the Metro Division, 91 points, 2 ahead of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and barely made the playoffs. Their injury troubles were horrible towards the end of the season, which is why they trailed off in the second half of the year. But still, they were able to slightly make the playoffs, with just a few more wins than Columbus. They played the Carolina Hurricanes in round 1 of this year's playoffs, and they lost in 5 games. So they were a really banged up team. Carolina is a very dominant team. Took advantage where they could. The Devils were in a couple of those games quite closely, but they did wind up losing in 5 games, so it was a one-and-done thing for the New Jersey Devils as they make the playoffs but are eliminated in round 1, so that's how the season went for the Devils team. If you look at their point scoring and goal scoring leaders in the regular season and the playoffs, in the regular season, Bratt led the team in points with 88, followed by Hughes who had 70 and Hischier who had 69. And if you look at their goal scoring leaders, Hischier led the team with 35 goals, followed by Jack Hughes who had 27 and Timo Meier who had 26. So we've seen worse teams goal scoring and point scoring wise in the offseason preview series videos before. They've had a couple of really good point scoring players, but not as much as you'd want to see, although Brad did have a very fantastic season and Hischier was a force goal scoring wise. If we look at the playoff wise, Hischier and Meier both had 4 points in this series, with Brad Pesce being tied for 3rd in the team with 3, while Hischier led the team with 4 goals, and Meier and Mercer both had 2 goals for the team. So they had a couple of decent goal scorers, but not a whole bunch, not enough to get them past that Carolina Hurricanes team, so interesting out there. If you look at their extended stats, goals for wise, they were tied for 20th in the regular season with 240 goals for. Goals against wise, they were actually one of the best teams. 5th in the NHL goals against wise with 220 goals against. That was fantastic for the Devils. Power play wise, PK wise, 2 of the best in the league. Power play wise, 28.2%, 3rd in the NHL. PK wise, 82.7%, 2nd in the NHL. Lethal on both sides of the special team spectrum. And all of that came crumbling down in that round 1 series. They have a 2.20 goals for per game, which is 16th in the NHL. Their goals against a 3.80 is tied for 14th in the NHL. They had no power play goals. That was 0.0%. That's dead last, 16th in the NHL. And their penalty kill ran at 68.4% PK, which isn't dead last at 13th, but it's not enough to get them past the Carolina Hurricanes. So all in all, in the regular season, the special teams was fantastic. Goals against wise was not overly bad, but goals for definitely struggled a bit. And then in the playoffs, their goals for, their power play non-existent, and their penalty kill and their goals against was not overly great either, so interesting out there. They currently have about $12.04 million in cap space for this upcoming offseason. If you look at the 3 reasons I think this team were eliminated, the first one, no goal scoring, as we talked about. They are dead last in the goal scoring per game department in the playoffs, and even in the regular season, they were tied for 20th. They got into the playoffs because they had superb goals against and killer special teams. Their goal scoring was never a strong suit for this team, and the Carolina Hurricanes shut them down. And that's the first reason why I think they wound up being eliminated from the playoffs. No goal scoring. Second reason was injuries. This team had a slew of injuries all season long. Jack Hughes missed the second half of the season and the entirety of the playoffs due to injuries. On top of that, Hamilton missed the entirety of the second half, was rusty in the playoffs. Jonas Siegenthaler missed the second half of the season. He was rusty in the playoffs. Kovacevic, Brendan Dillon, Luke Hughes all left that first round series due to injuries. Like, their blue line was so injured, it's not even funny. They had a whole bunch of injuries this year. That's the second reason why I think they were eliminated. And the third reason was bad special teams. Their special teams was a strong suit all season long. They had the third best power play, the second best penalty kill, but when it came to the playoffs, they got obliterated by the Carolina Hurricanes. 68% PK rate is not really great, and didn't even score one single power play goal in that first round series. So all in all, given all these facts, the lack of goal scoring, the injuries that caught up to that team, and the bad special teams, which was a strong suit in the regular season, were three main reasons, in my opinion, why this team got eliminated by the Carolina Hurricanes. So that's all of the updates with their stats, with why I think they missed the playoffs. Next, going over to their UFAs, their RFAs, and their draft capital for this upcoming offseason. If you look at their UFAs, not a whole bunch of significant players here. You have Tomas Tatar, Curtis Lazar, Sprong, Bastian, McLaughlin, Dumoulin, Chalowski, and Allen. Allen was a great backup this year, had a 13-16-1 record with a 2.66 GAA, 8.908 save percentage. Wouldn't be surprised if they was brought back on like a 1 to 2 year deal. Would also not be one bit surprised if he tested the free agent market. You had Chalowski, who had 3 goals and 10 points in 39 games. Dumoulin, who had 3 goals and 22 points in 80 games. Both are decent third pair defensemen. Chalowski with a little bit more on the lower end side. Both are required at the trade deadline. Wouldn't be surprised if the Devils may try to sign Chalowski as like a depth defenseman. Wouldn't be one bit surprised if both these guys walked. Then you have Mark McLaughlin, who had 2 goals and 3 points, 14 games. Another guy who was acquired at the trade deadline. Wouldn't be surprised if he was brought back. He's on the younger side of things. And then you have Tomas Tatar, who had 7 goals and 17 points. Lazar, who had 2 goals and 5 points. Sprung, who had 2 goals and 7 points. And Bastian, who had 4 goals and 10 points this year. All are really decent bomb sex forwards. Tatar, Lazar, Sprung, Bastian, like, all those guys can play third or fourth line minutes on any team. I could see 1 or 2 of those guys be brought back by New Jersey. Wouldn't be surprised if most of them left, so we're gonna have to wait and see on that. But those are some of the guys who headline the UFA market for the New Jersey Devils. If you look at their RFAs, you have Glass, Foote, Luke Hughes, and Poulter. Poulter was a 4th stringer, didn't get to any NHL action this year for the Devils. Could see him be brought back, wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't qualified. You have Luke Hughes, who had 7 goals and 44 points in 71 games. Really solid season there for the younger of the Hughes brothers. I think that the Devils are definitely going to sign him. The question is, are they going to sign him to a bridge deal or to a longer term deal? Nolan Foote's a decent bottom 6 guy, had an assist in 7 games. Wouldn't be surprised if he was brought back. And you have Cody Glass, who was acquired at the trade deadline, had 6 goals, 22 points, 65 games. Actually found quite a good home on the third line for the New Jersey Devils, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was brought back on like a 1 to 2 year deal. So some interesting RFAs there, headlined by Glass and Luke Hughes. If you go over to their current draft capital for this upcoming season, they have about as much as you expect a team who made the playoffs to have. They only have 6 draft picks for this upcoming season, so just a little bit lower than the average team. They have no first round picks. They have their own and the Oilers' second round picks. They have Vegas' third round pick. They have their own 4th round pick. They have no 5th. They have their own the Sharks' 6th round pick, and they have no 7th. So they have no 1st, 5th, or 7th round picks. They have 2 picks in the 6th and the 2nd round and a couple of other draft selections. So not a whole bunch of draft picks there for the Devils. Wouldn't be surprised if they even moved off of like a 2nd or a 3rd round pick if it was able to help them get some immediate upgrades. But some interesting note there is they only have 6 draft selections for this upcoming season. And lastly, going over to 5 things I think the New Jersey Devils should do in the offseason to get better for next year. So the first thing has to be add a top 6 forward, as we just talked about. Goal scoring was a major problem for this team. Now, Jack Hughes being injured and a couple of other injuries throughout the season definitely play a part in it, but I definitely think adding a top 6 forward, maybe they go after Marner, that's a possibility. Could easily see them definitely go after maybe like a Nikolai Ehlers in free agency or Sam Bennett. Also would not be one bit surprised if they try to do something via the trade market, so we're going to wait and see on that, but adding a top 6 forward has to be a priority for the New Jersey Devils. Second thing, move one of Andre Palat, Eric Haula, or Dougie Hamilton. The depth on that blue line for the New Jersey Devils is starting to grow. Like, they have guys like Casey and Nemec are going to need NHL options next year. I've seen this be mentioned a couple of times closer to the trade deadline, but I could see the Devils consider a Dougie Hamilton move if it made sense, given how much of an injury history Hamilton's been having. On top of that, Andre Palat's got 2 years left on his deal, $6 million AAV. It's just not working out for the New Jersey Devils at this point in time. I think a split has to come at some point, whether that's considering a buyout or trading him. I think there's a very good chance we see Palat get moved. I could also see Eric Haula get moved. He's entering the final year of his deal, making just over $3 million. Was a decent third line center there, but I definitely could see him get moved. So I think considering moving one of Palat, Haula, or Hamilton has to be another priority for the Devils. The third thing I think the Devils should do is let Nemec and Casey play at the NHL level next year. Both have showed this year they can be decent defensemen. Nemec scored the double overtime winner in the Devils' only win in that first round series. Like, he looks like he's NHL ready now, and Seamus Casey's not too far behind him. So I think the third thing has to be let those two play at the NHL level. Fourth thing has to be either bring back Jake Allen or add a new backup. Like, there's a couple of decent backups out there who I could see the Devils target, but I think they should try and re-sign Allen. He's been a really good backup for the past couple of years since they acquired him from the Montreal Canadiens a couple of years back at the trade deadline. So it'll be interesting to note there what happens with Allen and the Devils, but I think if they bring back Allen, he can continue to be the backup. If they don't bring back Allen, they have to go out and get a new backup, so that's priority number 4. And priority number 5 is add some veteran bottom 6 forwards. As we just talked about, they could lose a couple of veteran guys like Tatar, Sprong, Lazar, Bastian. Like, those guys could all leave via free agency. So especially with that, but like we talked about, this team needs more goal scoring. I think they will be going out and adding some veteran bottom 6 forwards this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to go after some players in the free agent market. Wouldn't be one bit surprised if they try to go out and try and get some guys via the trade market. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. But I think adding some veteran bottom 6 guys would be a smart move there to try and improve the Devils' goal scoring. So in my opinion, adding a top 6 forward, moving one of or more of Palat, Haula, or Hamilton, letting Nemec and Casey play in the NHL, bringing back Allen or adding a new backup, and adding some veteran bottom 6 forwards are the 5 things I think the Devils should do this offseason to improve and get better for next year. So that's what I'm going to talk about the Devils after they made the playoffs this year but were eliminated in round 1. Next, going over to the Montreal Canadiens. So when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens, they had a decent record this year, 40, 31, and 11. Once again, just like New Jersey, barely beat the Columbus Blue Jackets for the last playoff spot in the Eastern Conference, finishing in the second wildcard position with 91 points. They would have been tied with the Devils for the playoff spot, but just because of the fact that they are in the Atlantic, which is a lot harder at this point in time than the Metro, they finished as the second wildcard team in the Eastern Conference. They took on the Washington Capitals in the first round series, and they lost in 5 games. Don't think it's too much of a surprise. I did pick the Canadiens to win that series originally, but the Capitals just showed they are more dominant, more experienced. The Habs sort of looked like a team who was making the playoffs for the first time since they started the rebuild all the way back in 2021. So interesting note there, but the Habs, even though they were able to slightly make it into the playoffs, did lose in 5 games to Washington. Going over to their points and goal scoring leaders for this past season from the playoffs and the regular season. So in the regular season, Nick Suzuki had an 89-point season. It was a brilliant season from Suzuki, who hit 80 points, the first Hab player to hit 80 points in quite some time. So that was a really good stat there. Cole Caulfield was second on the team with 70 points, and Hudson third on the team with 66 points. So very good stuff there. Caulfield had another good season. Lane Hudson is a rookie with third on the team in goal scoring, which is insane. And then on top of that, Cole Caulfield led the team with 37 goals. Was nearly a 40-goal season from Caulfield. Suzuki had 30 goals, and Gallagher had 21. So obviously Suzuki and Caulfield were the driving force offensively in the regular season. If you go over to their point scoring leaders in the playoffs, Lane Hudson actually led the team in points with 5 points. That's stunning. Not only is he a defenseman, but he's a rookie, so to lead his team in points is crazy. Cole Caulfield had 4 points. He was second on the team in points scoring in the playoffs, and then 8 players had 2 points for the Montreal Canadiens. So you can see how this team did not make much noise in the playoffs. If you have Hudson and Caulfield, the only 2 players to hit above 2 points, so interesting note there. Well, Cole Caulfield led the team with 3 goals. He was a team leader, and then Dvorak, Suzuki, and Slavkovsky all had 2 goals. So at least they had a little bit more spread out things when it comes to the goal scoring side, but still, you can see with the not very much goal scoring why this team missed the playoffs. So interesting note there. Going over to some of the more advanced stats, if you look at their goal scoring in the regular season, season, they had 243 goals for, which was 17th in the NHL, so right around average. Wasn't terrible, wasn't overly great either. Goals against wise, they were tied for 22nd in the NHL with a 261 goals against, so definitely could have been better. Their goals against was not something that they were overly great. Power play wise, they were 20.1%, which was 21st in the NHL, which is not something you'd want to see. They were one of the lower teams in the power play percentage. Well, the penalty kill was a top 10 penalty kill unit in the regular season, as they had 80.9% PK, which was 9th in the NHL. So really good stuff there for the Montreal Canadiens on the playoffs. The goal scoring wise, they had 2.40 goals for per game, which was 14th in the NHL. Not much better than New Jersey. 3.60 goals against in the playoffs, which was 13th in the NHL. So once again, not very great. The special teams was the one bright spot. They had a 33.3% power play unit in the playoffs, which was 3rd in the playoffs at this point in time. And it had a 76.9% PK unit, which was 7th in the NHL. So they had a top half PK unit and a top 3 power play unit. So special teams was great for the Montreal Canadiens in that first round series. Goals for, goals against was not great. So interesting note there. The Habs currently have about $8.6 million in cap space for this upcoming offseason. If you look at the 3 reasons I think this team was eliminated, first, inexperience. This team is made up of a whole bunch of young players. Sure, Suzuki, Caulfield, there were a couple of those guys who were on the team when they went to the Stanley Cup final in 2021 in the realigned year, but most of these guys are younger players who have never had playoff experience, so that's probably the main reason this team was eliminated by the Capitals, the inexperience on this team. The second one was not enough depth scoring, as we talked about. Caulfield, Suzuki, Hudson, those guys, the big guys, they wound up producing when they needed to. Slavkovsky, but they had very little depth scoring. Like Christian Dvorak was one of the guys who did get a couple of goals, but besides that, they really didn't get much from their depth, which is another reason why I think they were eliminated. And the third one was they just could not contain the Capitals offense. The Capitals, 5-on-5, did basically whatever they wanted to do against the Montreal Canadiens. Special teams is the only reason this team wasn't a sweep. So interesting note there. But I think the 3 reasons that this team was eliminated was the inexperienced team, given the fact they're just coming out of a rebuild, not enough depth scoring, and the fact that they could not contain the Capitals offense were the 3 main reasons, in my opinion, why they were eliminated. So that's my opinion on why I think they were eliminated. Those are the stats for this team. Next, going over to their UFAs, their RFAs, and their draft capital. So if you look at their UFAs, not a long list here. They have Armia, Dvorak, Pizzetta, and Berbule. Pizzetta and Berbule both didn't have any points. Both only play a handful of games at the NHL level. I could see them potentially be brought back. Wouldn't be surprised if they left. You have Christian Dvorak, who had 12 goals and 33 points in 82 games. Armia, who had 11 goals and 29 points in 81 games. Both have been decent bottom 6 forwards over the past couple of years, but I would highly doubt that the Montreal Canadiens bring them back. I think both those guys are going to leave on the UFA market for the Canadiens. If you look at their RFAs, not a whole bunch of really interesting pieces here. You got Heineman, Pinard, Farrell, Struble, Lindstrom, Dobes, and Primo. Dobes had a 7.43 record with a 909 save percentage and 2.74 GAA. Primo had 2.31 record with a 4.70 GAA and 8.36 save percentage. So all in all, I definitely think they're going to bring back Dobes, given how well he played at the NHL level. Could see him potentially not qualify Primo, so we'll have to wait and see on that. Kane Lindstrom, Raphael Harvey Pinard, Sean Farrell all didn't play the NHL level. Could see Lindstrom and Pinard both not be brought back. Farrell's probably definitely going to be brought back on a shorter term deal. Struble had 2 goals and 13 points in 56 games. Really solid defender. Definitely think he'll be brought back on a 1 to 2 year deal. And you have Emil Heineman, who had 10 goals and 18 points in 62 games. Looks like he's going to be a really solid middle 6 forward there for the Habs, so I definitely think he'll be brought back. So RFA headlined by Struble, Heineman, and Dobes for the Montreal Canadiens. Next, going over to the draft capital for the Canadiens for this upcoming draft. Now, for a team who actually did make the playoffs, they have a ton of draft picks. The Canadiens have way more than the average team. They have a combined 12 draft picks for this upcoming season. They have their own and the Flames' first round pick, their own and the Penguins' second round pick, their own the Devils and the Canucks' third round pick, their own and the Red Wings' fourth round pick, their own 5th, their own 6th, and their own 7th. So they have all of their own draft selections, as well as an extra 1st, an extra 2nd, 2 extra thirds and an extra fourth. So this team is loaded with draft picks for this upcoming draft. Wouldn't be surprised if they traded a couple of those, didn't use all of them, but for a team who made the playoffs, this is an abundance of draft picks for the Montreal Canadiens, so very interesting stuff there for the Habs. If you look at 5 things I think that this Habs team should do in the offseason to get better and maybe make it back to the playoffs next year, maybe go a little bit deeper, the first thing I think they need to do is add a veteran top 4 defenseman. This team has a very, very young blue line. Struble, Xhekaj, Hudson, eventually Mailloux, goalie. Like, there's a lot of young players. David Savard just retired for the Habs. So with all that in mind, going out and adding not only a top 4 defenseman, but someone who has experience, who's a veteran. I would not be surprised if they were in the Aaron Ekblad or Ivan Provorov sweepstakes in free agency. We'll have to wait and see what sort of defenseman they could potentially go after in the trade market. But like, I think adding a veteran top 4 defenseman who's someone with experience who could help provide some wisdom on this young blue line, I think will be a very smart move there for the Habs. So adding a veteran top 4 defenseman is the top priority. Second priority is moving some of their draft capital for immediate help. Like, this team just made the playoffs. They have an abundance of prospects. Sure, they're going to use a couple of those top-end prospects, first, second, third round picks to add some more young prospects, but they're not going to use all 12 of their picks that they currently have right now. So I think trading some of their picks, even maybe some of their top-end picks, like a first or second round pick, for immediate help would be a very smart move there for the Montreal Canadiens. Like, they have 2 top 17 first round picks, 2 top 17 second round picks. Like, I would not be one bit surprised if the Habs move off some of these draft capital to acquire some help in the trade market. So we're going to have to wait and see on that, but moving the draft picks immediate help would be a smart move there for the Habs. Third thing has to be move Kirby Dach and or Josh Anderson. Anderson had a really good stretch towards the end of the season. He's got 2 years left at $5.5 million. His value might not be higher than this at this point in time, so I definitely think it'll be a smart move for the Habs to at least consider moving off of Josh Anderson. Whereas for Kirby Dach, he continues to be hurt. Year after year, he has so much trouble with injuries. I think a fresh start might be a smart move there for the Habs because it doesn't seem like he's fitting in overall with the Canadiens at this point in time anyway. Was a bomb 6'4" for a long time with the Montreal Canadiens this year before he wound up being injured. So I think considering moving Dach or Anderson has to be priority number 3. Priority number 4 has to be add some more of the younger players. Roy, Demidov, Kapanen, and Reinbacher, as well as Mailloux, should all be challenging for roster spots in training camp this year. Once again, another training camp option, not something that's going to happen right now. But I think having guys like Roy, Demidov, Kapanen, Reinbacher, and Mailloux all challenge for roster spots, maybe a couple of those guys getting roster spots will be a smart move there for the Habs. And the 5th, just like with the New Jersey Devils, is add some bottom 6 help. This team was not overly fantastic goal scoring wise. Like we talked about, they were average, but they weren't great. So if they really want to try and make it to the next level, not only make the playoffs, but win around, I think adding some veteran bottom 6 help, especially with guys like Dvorak and Armia potentially leaving this offseason, would be a very smart move there for the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to have to wait and see on that. But in my opinion, adding a veteran top 4 defenseman, moving the picks for immediate help, moving Dach and or Anderson for some other picks or prospects or maybe just other pieces. Having Roy, Demidov, Kapanen, Reinbacher, Mailloux all challenge for roster spots, and adding some veteran bottom 6 forwards are the 5 things I think this Habs team should do this offseason to improve and get better for next year. So in my opinion, I think that's what the Habs should do. So not only make it back to the playoffs next year, but maybe win a round or 2 and maybe make it a little bit further than they did this year. So definitely, that's all I'm going to talk about for today. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Are you surprised the Habs and the Devils are the first 2 teams eliminated from the playoffs? Are you surprised that they even made the playoffs with how low of a point total they did? And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. And if you think these are moves that the Habs and Devils should be doing in the offseason to get better for next year, definitely leave your thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and if you like it, remember to subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to comment. I also do a blog to make news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So check that out. I've linked that in the description below. Can't see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.